everyone, it's Imogen and welcome back to Colouring Kids. I hope you're doing well. In today's video I'm going to be sharing my colour combinations for the months of April, May and June. So because I'm not doing as many pages, I thought that it would make more sense to do a few months in one video rather than just doing them every month, and I started doing that a little while ago. So the last video I did was back in April, I think, which was sharing October 2022 through to March 2023, so that was quite a big video. But yeah, I've got 4 pages to share with you that I have colour combinations for, and I really enjoy doing these videos because they help me remember how I've coloured things, and I can look back on them in the future. And also I hope that they are helpful in some way if you're looking for colour combinations. Maybe you've just bought a new set of pencils and you're looking to colour something, and hopefully some of these things can help. A lot of my pages focus around flowers and leaves, animals often, so a lot of that is what I've got written down. And I do just want to say as a disclaimer as well, in all of my videos I don't necessarily write down every single thing that I've coloured on a page. That could either be because there are some things that I don't think I will really need the colour combinations for in the future, or it could just be that some of the elements that I've coloured, I've just used the same colours already on the page. So I'll sort of explain that as we go through, but I write down all of my colour combinations in my bullet journal. So this is my current one for 2023. I've got a pink one for 2022, and I think I started doing this in 2022 in January because I saw Emma Colours 2020 share hers, and I thought it was a great idea to share them and make a video. So I'm going to start with April, if I can find them. So I really didn't do much in these last couple of months, hence why I've made more of a compilation video. So I did do a Flowerscape in Paradise page, but that was with my Arteza pencils, which I don't use that much, so I didn't feel like I needed to write down the combination, because also it was the first time I'd coloured passion flowers and I didn't know if I would come across them again in another colouring book. So the page that I do have to share with you though is from Mein Frühling Spaziergang by Rita Berman. I do apologise as well, I'm not feeling the best, but I wanted to do this video just so that when I'm away travelling in July you still have videos coming. So this was the birdhouse page that I did, and this one largely had a lot of combinations that I had used before with my Holbein pencils. So because I use them quite a lot, I didn't feel like I needed to write down every single thing. And I will just mention the chaffinches I don't have written down on here because I've already coloured them. So if you remember, I did a Wild Mouse Ururi page in February 2022, I think. It was either February or March. So if you're interested in seeing how I coloured the chaffinches with Holbeins, it will be in one of those videos. So yeah, I didn't write down those, but lots of the other colours I used in the chaffinches are for the rest of the picture. So obviously I took the pinks that I used and used them for the butterflies, the browns for the birdhouses, the blue for the background and things like that. So a lot of the colour inspiration for this page came from the colours of the birdhouses, chaffinches. Also, I've been asked by Shelley on my last compilation video I did to just show the page for a bit longer and in a bit more detail, so that if you are wanting to try and emulate the page in your own colouring or just parts of it, then hopefully me holding it for a little bit longer will be easier for you, because I know that I do sometimes just do them quite quickly. I think partly that was because in my last video I had quite a few pages to show. Excuse me. So yeah, hopefully that's a good enough time to be able to see it. So the background for this was fairly simple. There was quite a lot of layering for it. So I have had a few questions about my coding system and how I go about laying out my colour combinations. So unless it's specified like it is here with the bases, a lot of the time I will have a base colour and then work from top to bottom. So like I've done with the birdhouses, I'll start with that because that makes more sense. So the actual birdhouse itself, not the roof, was this bit. So I would do eggshell as a base and then work from top to bottom, and then S is for shadow. So I would go in with burnt umber again as a shadow pencil, and then I'm using fine liners a lot for shadows, so that's why I used the Staedtler sand colour as a shadow. In this case, for the roof, I don't have any base colour, so what that means is I just work from top to bottom and that's it. So it's only if there is a specific base next to a colour that's the first colour I use. So for this one, what I would have done was Sky Mist as the first layer, then Smoke Blue, then Sky Mist again, then Willow Green, and then Sky Mist. So it's sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the shadow. So I will put the PDFs in the description for you for these, so that you can also print out the colour combinations if you'd like to. But yeah, that's pretty much everything for this. So as I said, a lot of the greens were just some green colour combinations that I do quite a lot, and they would probably be fairly easy to emulate. And the green I used for the chaffinch, I can't remember exactly what colour that was. I think it might have been leaf green. I definitely used that. And then the green that I used for the background, so that would have been willow green. I also used that in some of the leaf areas as well. So yeah, that's that page. And also I've started just putting in my actual colour combinations. So this is the process that I go through when I'm doing my colour combinations. So what I will tend to do is I'll always have a piece of paper behind the page that I'm working on, even if it's not marker. I just like putting a piece of paper in case there's indentation. And then once I'm happy with a colour palette, I will just colour in order the pencils that I use. This is quite a messy example. I've got some neater ones coming up. And then, yeah, if I need to get my fine liners starting, sometimes I find with fine liners, if you're going over pencil, you can get quite a lot of the wax going onto the fine liners. You have to sort of scribble them a bit on paper to get them working again. But yeah, that's quite a messy one. I'll show you the May page now. So we have Meine Reise durch Asien. This is the poppy page I did with the jaybird. So this one, I did write down everything, I think, because I was using the Faber-Castell Black Edition pencils, which I only recently got, and I thought, seeing as this was the first proper page I was using them with, I would write down all of the colours, just so that I have them for future pages. So if you don't have a Faber-Castell Black Edition pencils, I think some of the Faber-Castell Classic pencils, the 60 set, have similar colours. They're not going to be exactly the same, and they're definitely not as pigmented as the Black Edition, but I do think that they're still a great starter set and they have some lovely colours. So they're probably the closest in colour range, I guess, because they're both I think classed as budget pencils, but not on the same line, not the same line of Faber-Castell. But yeah, you can probably find similar colours in the Polychromo set as well. But here again, I won't go through absolutely everything because there's quite a lot, but lots of this was layering. I found that these pencils worked really well for layering rather than just going straight in and burnishing. So you would just follow simply the process of the numbers, which was very complicated for this, I have to say, the poppies especially. And I used a lot of fine liners after the pencil to add lots of added texture. So for example, for the jaybird, you would follow all of the numbers in order. So I used this first colour as a base, and then base 1, base 2, base 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then there are some shadows as well. So that's pretty much the process for this whole page. And some colours, as I have stated, like here, S only. So some colours I only use as a shadow only. I think this colour was a really dark brown and I didn't want it to be an undertone to the whole thing. I just wanted it to be over the top. So I hope that makes sense. I'm also aware, obviously, with these being numbers only, it's harder to tell what colours they all are if you don't have the set. If you have the set, obviously with the numbers it's a lot easier to find the colours, but I think on the back, if you search up the pencils on the back of the box, there should be the numbers with the corresponding colours, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but I'll hold this up in a second so you can see, but hopefully you have an indication of what colours are what if you're looking out for them. But yeah, this page was so much fun to do, and I did quite a few unusual colours that I wouldn't have normally put together. I don't think that this is the most cohesive picture I've ever done. There are definitely colours that sort of don't go together quite as well as others, but I really enjoyed doing it. So I'll just hold it up a little bit closer for you. So yeah, a lot of this, as I said, was layering work and just basing and slowly adding layers, and it did take a while. So this probably is quite a complicated way of writing it down the way I've done it, because there were a lot of different steps to it. But yeah, that's that one. And as you can see on the other side of my page, I initially had this idea for the colour combination, which I think I shared in a video and explained, but this ended up being this ended up being the bit of paper that I was scribbling down all of the order of the colours on. So this was the J, this was the poppy. So what I will do actually is keep these in the PDF, so hopefully you might also be able to see the types of colours I was using, to see if that makes a little bit of sense. But as I said, this one was quite a complicated one even for me to remember how I'd done it. So that's that one. And then we have June. So I probably won't be able to keep these in the PDF just because they are currently covering up some of the notes, but I always like to keep these in just to have them for future reference. But the first one I did was the Beautiful Planets page, which I have shown a couple of times now in my completed pages video and also my fine liner video. So if you want to see it in lots more depth and how I've used the fine liners on this page, then I'd recommend checking that video out. But in terms of the pencils that I used Holbein pencils, and this one was more simple in the sense that I have followed my basing rule where I've just done the basing and then worked from top to bottom, but rather than it just being predominantly pencil, this one was pencil and fine liner pretty much split evenly. So I have written down all of the colours, and most of them come from the Staedtler 60 set, and on the back of that box there are the colours corresponding to the numbers. But yeah, it should hopefully be a little bit easier to follow this coding. But this was the page. So again, I'll just hold it up for you, so if you want to take a screenshot or take a photo or anything if you're interested, that is the page. So I'll just run through what was what for this, because some of them might be a little bit harder to deduce. So the dark red pink flower was this one, so there was quite a lot of fine liner. So the reason there are bracketed sections off was because the little bracket at the bottom was referring to the little extra leaves, that sort of flat bits of the leaves, because they were all based with a fine liner. The small pink flowers were these ones. So these ones were coloured differently to these, which were the anemones. So these are the anemones, which, as you can see, was quite a lot of work. The first bracket is the pink colour for the actual petals, and then the second bracket was for the yellow areas, and then the third was for the green centre. The leaves were for all of these leaves here, so with the pink outline, the dark sort of bottle green colour with the pink outline. I didn't bother writing down the leaf colour for the bright green because that was just a fine liner base and literally two colours to shade it, and that was really just to tie the picture together. It wasn't one of the main elements, so I didn't feel like it was really necessary to write that down. And also the colours that I used for that were pretty much the same as the centre of the anemone. So they would be very easy to replicate if you had already got those colours. And then the background was just opal green Holbein. So I would really recommend also, if you haven't already, checking out the colour conversion chart from Karen from My Colourful Country Life, because if you don't have the Holbein pencils, I think she has included those and shown what other colours from other sets would match them, because I do appreciate that for quite a few of my pages I do use the Holbeins, and they do have some very unusual colours, but you probably can find them in other sets. So yeah, I would really recommend checking that out, because obviously I've used them for 2 of the pages that I've shown in this video, but I loved doing this one. And as I said, if you want to learn more about how I used the fine liners for this, then that is in my recent fine liner video. So that's that picture. So that's probably, yeah, hopefully a fairly easy one to follow in comparison to the last page. And I'll just quickly show you this. So again, these were my notes. The anemone colours were all up here. The red pink flower, small pink flowers, and the leaves in the background. It just keeps me accountable for what I've done, because sometimes I haven't had time to write down the colour combinations as I'm going. Normally I would do that, but sometimes I get to the end of the page and then, you know, I've got all these pencils surrounding me that I need to put away and I can't remember what I've used. So it's a lot easier for me to just quickly scribble down the colours instead of writing them down. But yeah, and it's nice seeing the colour palette as well, just a brief version of it and what I intended for it to end up looking like, and then seeing the end result at the end. So this was the I Believe in Fairies Berry Fairy, well that's what I called her anyway, that I've just put up on Instagram. I'm not really posting much on Instagram anymore, but I do like to put up my buddy colours. Oh, this tape is very sticky. Oh no. And it was a buddy colour with Effie, and we do Clara buddy colours together. So I'm trying to complete I Believe in Fairies and she's trying to complete Fairy Celebrations. And so I hadn't done a postcard from Clara Markova since March or April. No, it can't have been April because I've just shown the pages. I think it was March. But the one I did was the Berry Fairy, which again, I was actually colouring in that fine liner video that I shared and sharing some techniques. So again, if you're interested in seeing how I've used the fine liners, that's in that video. Now, I don't really go into detail in these videos what embellishments I use, and I don't write them down because it tends to be the same sort of stuff all the time. And I didn't write down the gouache that I used either for the wings. So in my completed pages video, I was talking about how I used watered down gouache for the base of the leaves, and then went over with all the glitter paint. But for this, I just wrote down the blackberries, the flowers, the leaves, and then the background. So the background really was the only complicated bit because I kept alternating between the colours. I used a Derwent blender pen for nearly all of this before I went over with the fine liner. I haven't experimented yet whether adding a blender pen after fine liner would sort of make the fine liner spread. I think it would, but I haven't really tested that out yet. But yeah, things like the branches I didn't write down, things like her hair or her skin, because a lot of those were based on the branch colour. So I just took a few different browns really, and then used them in a lighter way for her hair. So yeah, they were the main components that I wrote down anyway, and I'll just again hold it up for you. This one was very much a postcard picture to show how fine liners can be used to sort of accentuate what's already there with a pencil, and I think they're amazing. And because I was using the Faber-Castell Black Edition pencils for the first time on the postcard, it was great to be able to use the fine liners with them as well a lot more, like I did with the Mine Razor Asian page. So yeah, I didn't use too many fine liners on this one, but again, hopefully it's easy to follow. So again, for example, with the blackberries, what I would have done was the base colour first, work top to bottom with the pencils, and then I did the 2 fine liners as shadow colours, and then went over with the top colour for the 3rd shadow. So that sort of explains how that works, and that's the same for the leaves as well. The flowers, on the other hand, were just all the way through, top to bottom, because I didn't have a base colour really for that. The top two colours were the greens for the centres of the flowers, which you really can't see the centres of the flowers because I went over with the white gel pen. But then this bit was the actual petal. So yeah, that's that one, and that's all of the pages that I have to share with you. So again, I'll just quickly show you this. This was the colour for all of them. That was the flower, the leaf colour combo. This was the blackberry combo, and that was the background. So yeah, I hope that that makes sense. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below. I do understand that it is a little bit confusing, and obviously my coding won't work for everybody because this is just how I remember them. If you have any tips for how you organise your colouring, I would love to know, because I think for me it's a fun part of it, because I get to look back, and if I want to colour something again, I can look back and use the combos. I mean, when I was coming to doing that birdhouse page with the chaffinches, I was so glad that I did write down the combo from last year, because I just wouldn't have remembered. And especially when I don't have as much time to colour, I don't really want to be wasting too much time having to remember and rethink how I coloured something before. It's just a lot easier to have them written down already. So yeah, it's definitely something that I'm going to continue doing. And yeah, I would really find it useful to know if you would still like to continue seeing these videos, because I think that doing them in 2 or 3 month installments is probably a lot better, just because you get quite a few combos at once rather than maybe only just getting 1 or 2 pages. But yeah, I'd love to know what you think, and I really appreciate your feedback, and I'm nearly up to date with all of your comments. I really do appreciate them. I've had a lot more time now to go back and reply to everybody. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Take care everyone. Everything will be down below as usual, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.